Well, listen, everybody, it seems to be an early Christmas present for Prime Minister Mark Carney and the Liberal Party. I don't know if you heard, but former Conservative MP Michael Ma has crossed the floor to join the Liberals. Okay, so that leaves the federal party just one seat shy of a majority government. So close. In a statement, Ma wrote that this is the time for unity and decisive action. So are moves like this making the country more unified or divisive? What do we think?
I wonder if it depends, like, on what side of the aisle you're sitting. Because if you're a liberal, you're probably like, yes! Like, it feels almost like your team is winning. But if you're a conservative, especially if you voted for the guy, you're probably a little peeved, a little disappointed, maybe even mad. And maybe you're an NDP, and you just sort of sit there being, like, quietly like, hey, guys, I'm still here. Don't forget about us.
I actually think if you zoom out, it actually is quite unifying. Mark Carney is the most conservative of liberal leadership that we've probably seen ever, first of all. Second of all, everybody knows that you can't get anything done when you've got a minority government situation. Things just get stalled, and it's very hard to get anything done. So people want action, and so I think that if you actually zoom out and take all emotions out of it, people are saying, you know what, we need to get stuff done. We are in a really, really bad place. So let's come together, let's make a majority government, and let's take all of what has been previously quite nasty politics out of it and do what Canadians do best, come together and fight for our country.
You know what? Like pride and ego, get rid of it.
That's a very mature way to look at it. I was looking at it more like a Housewives episode where I'm like, spill the tea, what is happening? And I realized it comes down to the way I think about the Conservative Party, which in my mind, I've always thought of them over, it's party over politics. So when I see them cross the aisle, I'm like, oh no, someone needs to spill the tea about what's going on, because this is not typically what they do. They always stick to one side. So in my head, I'm like, what's going on? But I realized, I did a little research, this has happened before. It was 25 years ago, but it has happened. They're actually September of 2000, David Price, Diane St. Jacques, and Andre Harvey joined the Liberals at the same time. So this has happened, but it hasn't happened in a long time.
Did it swing them into a majority?
Yeah, and and this is why I think I was just shocked, because I didn't know this information, and I just don't expect it from the party. But if anybody would like to, from the Conservative Party, would like to sit down with Omar Sachedina, with the Social, and let us know what's going on, I'd love to hear the story behind that.
Because I think where there's smoke, there's fire. This is now the third Conservative. One has already crossed the floor with Christian Tremont, and then there was another person who wanted to cross the floor. It seemed there were allegations that he was talking to the party, and then the Conservatives said, if you cross the floor, there's going to be some words and consequences, so he decided to resign instead. Wow. This is now the third person who has actually come over to the party. So it's 171 seats. They need 172 to be in a majority government, which tells me what is going on with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives behind closed doors. This has been historically a very tightly run ship. They get behind their leader, and he has been this pit bull who's been barking a lot for a really long time, and no one has stepped out of line. This is unprecedented in the number, the fact that this could swing potentially the government to majority. If there are more people talking, which, depending on who you're listening to, there are more Conservatives talking, what is this going to do? Here's why I don't mind it. If maybe you voted for him as a Conservative, I can understand if you're upset today. I understand that completely. But if you also zoom out, this is unprecedented times. Nothing unites people like a common enemy. And you know who? I don't want to say enemy, but there's a guy named Donald Trump who is who is trying to change global world order, literally under our nose. He may or may not, probably does not believe in democracy. He doesn't believe in alliances. He doesn't believe you take care of your friends.
Global warming?
So he doesn't believe in global warming.
Treating women with respect.
He doesn't believe in science. He doesn't believe in medicine. So Canada is in a very, very precarious position. We need to find new friends. We need to get all on board with Team Canada. And that is where I think this is going.
And you know how you do that. You start talking about Taylor Swift. That's where we're going next. She was on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and shook off suggestions that she'll disappear into a blank space anytime soon. She said what she values most is career longevity. But what do you think about this idea of longevity versus taking a step back?
I think it has a solid point. I think she should actually listen to the people who are giving her this message, and not in the way you think. I'm not saying in a negative way, like, go away, give someone else a chance. I think that the fans are actually saying, we really love you, and we want you around as long as possible. But if you're going to bombard us with an album in different colors and another tour and another tour and another this, and then you're showing up at all the, and it's too much, Swift, then we're gonna kind of get tired of you, and we don't want to do
that. Or
that.
they can't even afford her. Like, they just can't afford the bloody tickets anymore.
But wait, even for the people who can afford, there's too much of a good thing is never good.
You
right?
know what,
So
Taylor, I hear what you're saying, because, like, you know, we get tired of people. What is it? Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. According to her fans, there's not enough, Taylor. I'll tell you why. The numbers don't lie. This is a demand and supply issue. The demand is insatiable. She came out with Life of a Showgirl after she did a $2 billion record-breaking 2-year tour with the Eras Tour. They couldn't get enough of her. They made her a billionaire based on touring. Then she drops an album that she recorded while she was on tour. It is the #1 biggest best-selling album in the history of music sales.
Okay.
4 million in the first week. That's not even it. Then she drops the album. Not only does it go #1 on Billboard's 200, it takes up the top 12 spots with all her music.
Okay, wait.
The fans can't get enough.
No, wait. The fans can't get enough. Yes, those are great numbers and they make a great point. But is she going to do this for the next 10 years? You're going to do this for the next 15 years?
That.
You can't sustain that. And what they're saying is, if you can get all of those numbers with all of the stuff coming out, imagine what your numbers would be if you just disappeared for like 3 years and you just kept quiet. Because you know her fans love Easter eggs. They love, let people miss you. I'm not saying you have to do a Sade where you disappear for 10 years.
Yeah.
And by the way, where is Sade? Sade, show yourself. I'm not saying you go that far. But I'm telling you, if she can do all of that with everything she's doing, imagine if she just kind of disappeared for a year
I
or
agree.
two.
There's nothing like that feeling of missing someone you love or admire. You know, if you're apart from someone and then you're like, oh my God, I love the feeling of missing you. But I don't think that's possible. I don't think the media will allow us to miss Taylor Swift. She sneezes and they write about it, and then we talk about it, right? I think in this age, like Sade was able to disappear, Greta Garbo was able to disappear, and the public wanted to know.
Adele disappears. She does. Adele
but
disappears.
I don't think Taylor Swift could disappear for 2 weeks, even if she
Let's try it. Let's see.
No, it's true.
Taylor,
Well, the algorithm isn't really letting her. Like, even if she was going to, I think to your point, I don't know. I have two minds of this. Like, I don't think that we've thought about men in this way. Like, you know, Prince was notoriously prolific. He had, like, I don't know how many albums that he did, and many men do studio tours, like, and do tour after tour after tour, like your Rolling Stones and your
Elton John,
all those ones. And we don't really say take a step back, but no one has had quite the power.
Right.
Wait, did they oversaturate the market the way she did? Did they put out an album in 10 different colors? Like, I don't remember them doing that.
I know, for sure, but I feel like the part of this is the fan base that is asking for it. I guess it is on Taylor, though, a little bit to recognize that there are other women who would like to occupy probably some of those top 10 spaces. And so is there a place where she now is at his level of her career where she could take a sidestep for a moment and allow other people to occupy those spaces?
Okay, I get what you're saying. I think we're all saying the same thing in a way, but if I can just totally take a different angle at this, the feminist in me says we never ask men to slow down.
But no one, but
we
they're
never do.
We're not asking them to slow down.
I'm not done. And also, you know what? Asking a woman who's at the top of her game, you know what? You should think about other people. I will say this. It's like, I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm saying that
I'm saying that. I am saying that.
But it's like, if she is on top of the world and she is the artist of this new era, and she's the one leading the way, who is it for us to tell a young, successful woman to stop? It just feels very unfeminine.
I hear what you're saying, but the other, it's just a pause. It's just like kind of the way of thinking about how you can mentor, how you can be an example to, how you can make space for.
Yeah, I don't think she needs to do that.
It's just worth thinking about it.
It's a music business, and it should be called the business music because it really is more of a business. I'm not saying that she should stop and, you know, let somebody else take the charts. I'm just saying it's a lot, and I feel like every time I turn around, you got a new project, and I'm just saying, hey, just pump your brakes. We want to see you for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
A little mystery.
A little mystery go away.
She's doing this
and then
because she wants to have a baby, and she's trying to pump it all out before she has a baby.
Retire tomorrow.
Guys, when you become a mother, it all changes. Let her live. Let her live. Anyway,
That was good.
that was good, guys. I think we did a good thing there.
It's a nice time.
I don't know.
Okay, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman made his late-night debut on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and he irked parents everywhere when he said he can't imagine figuring out how to raise a newborn without ChatGPT. Very on brand. What do we think of this?
Is that me? Is that me? Oh, is that me? Okay, where do I begin with this nonsense that he just said out of his mouth? Jumping on what I said about last time, I think he was being a little tongue-in-cheek. I mean, listen, he's the CEO of ChatGPT and OpenAI, so it's a little bit of marketing slide in there. But where I don't disagree with him is that, you know, like I like lights and I like electricity because technology has evolved and we don't have to use candles anymore. I like driving a car. But, you know, because we don't have to use a horse and carriage anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think
It's
what
a
he is
tool.
saying is
AI
that
is
it's
a
a
tool.
tool, it's technology, and the same way that we used to say, I'll Google that, we now just say, I'm going to ChatGPT that. So I actually think that, I don't think he's being serious at every move he makes, he's using ChatGPT, but the reason why websites are dying is because ChatGPT just amalgamates all the information. It's a quick and easy way. So if there's something as a mom, remember when something would happen and be like, is this normal? I think I need a little reassurance.
Honestly, this is where this really bugs me. Because I think that parents too often are undermining their own confidence by going to these things. Yes, it was Google before, and now it's ChatGPT. Before that, it was books. And instead of using the village and also trusting their instincts, because who knows your child better than you, is you.
But the early days, I didn't know anything.
Right?
But I didn't know anything.
But yeah, I promise you, Mel, you knew more than you thought you did.
I mean, she's alive. She's alive.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though.
In this interview, said things like, he asked the question to ChatGPT, why does my kid stop dropping his pizza on the floor and laugh? Why? That's what he Googled, or not Googled, ChatGPT. And then also he had been talking to a dad whose son had been crawling at 6 months, and he went into the bathroom and panicked and was like, should my son be crawling at 6 months? Like, that to me is a misuse of this technology.
Didn't you guys use Google to do stuff like that?
Not like that, no.
I did.
To me, that made it worse. It was like you'd go out. I remember coming back home from an appointment, and this nurse assistant, who was like clearly not a parent herself, said to me, is your son making animal noises yet? And I was like, no, he isn't. She's like, And I was like, what the heck? Automatically, any parent thinks there's something wrong with their kid when that happens, right? Yeah, exactly. But it was a horrible moment. And of course, my temptation was to go to Google and maybe to ChatGPT. But the truth was, I went, I know my kid is not problematic. There's nothing wrong with my kid. So I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to say, forget about this.
You don't know what she wrote. She could have been like, future genius.
Okay.
You don't know what she wrote. She didn't tell you what's in that chart. You mentioned something that it's a little bit of marketing. I think it's a lot of marketing. Because if you're going to create something and then you're going to go and promote it on a show and someone's going to ask you, well, you know, do you like it? Of course you have to sell it.
Yeah.
You have to say, of course, my children, my mother. Of course, he's doing his job as a person who owns a business. But I do remember, you guys remember back in 2010, Steve Jobs was doing an interview with the New York Times, and the reporter asked him if his kids love the iPad. Okay, you guys know that he was one of the inventors of the iPad. And his response was, they haven't used it. We limit how much technology our kids use at home. Now,
that's bad marketing,
that is horrible marketing, but then look at where we are today. We just did a story. The story just broke earlier this week that Australia is, you know, banning social media for kids, and they're realizing all of the bad things. So it's like, at least Steve was being honest with us. This guy, Steve was like, I don't know. I don't let my kids touch it. And we should have paid a lot more attention to that. So I just think this guy's doing what every business person would do. If you ask me about the product that I'm trying to sell, I'm going to tell you it's the greatest thing ever. I have it. My kids have it. Everybody has it.
Yes,
That's so true. I appreciate the softness you brought to this conversation. Those were points I did not consider. But I do think we're going through this time where whenever like a new tool comes to our disposal, there is always like this a little bit of moral panic. Like, what are we going to do with it? And like electricity, that's such a great example. Electricity gave us light. It also gave us the electric chair. Do you know what I mean? So certain tools can be used like for nefarious means. So it's how we use them. It's how we use the tools,
You're right.
right? We're not, because we're never going back to candles. We're not going back. So we just use AI as a tool with compassion and thoughtfulness because the AI creators just got Time Person of the Year, People of the Year. Like, we're not going back.
Yeah, and I just think if you're a parent, just a note, if something's wrong with your kid, don't ask ChatGPT. See an obstetrician.
Yes, thank you.
See a pediatrician. Talk to a doctor. Just, you know.
Yes.
All right, so here's some food for thought. Italian cuisine is already loved across the world, but now it's getting extra props. UNESCO has designated the Italian rituals of cooking and eating as World Heritage, but doesn't mention specific recipes or dishes. So what do you guys make of this designation?
I don't know.
You like it?
I honestly don't know how to feel about this. Like, I feel like I'm one of those rare people, I think like you, who's like several generations Canadian. My background is Italian, but it's quite far removed. Having said that, there are certain dishes that have been passed down, and I feel really delighted whenever they pop up in our home. And yet, at the same time, I'm sure if an Italian was to see the way that this recipe has been passed down, they might be like, what is that? Like, of course, because it morphs and it changes with generations. So as much as I love this, I think one of the beautiful things about being Canadian is that we know that things change and cultural, like it evolves. And I wonder if this can end up making people be, I don't know, more sort of territorial and identity-based.
Well, the Italians already are more territorial about their dishes. That's why I find this designation, it's so broad and by design. Like, it's called World's Intangible Heritage, which is kind of laughable, right?
It's not.
How is it? Like,
because if I can say this, I'm going to take a sidestep because a place in Lisbon, Portugal, which is the home country of my father. Thank you to the cameraman who's at Antonio back there. Thank you. It is the school, the Portuguese School of Equestrian Arts. The kind of riding that my family does.
That's different. That's
not different. It's under the exact same intangible cultural heritage.
but that you can quantify. Like, that particular type of riding is a beautiful thing. But how do you quantify a country's cuisine, especially a country where no two recipes essentially are the same? Every nona makes something different. Every region.
But maybe it's
town
not
to
recipe
town.
because it's the practice of it. And if I go back to my example really, really quickly, if you preserve the practice, it's not about the end result. It's the fact that the grandmothers are the ones sitting and they're picking the pomodoros, they got the tomatoes, they're doing the sugo, and they're teaching the kids.
You don't think we've romanticized that a little bit?
No, I don't think so, because anytime that I go to Italy, I was just there this past summer, there are very clear practices that show me what the culture is, and I think it's a beautiful thing to preserve it.
What happens with immigration? Like, we're right now talking to both sides of our mouths. We're
Open
talking
the tent.
globally.
It's not just for Italians.
Okay, well, as long as we're acknowledging that, because I think sometimes we do talk out of both sides of our mouths about wanting to have a multicultural society. There is more need for immigration around the world. And also, yes, preserving some
I think it's a beautiful thing. The act of preserving these rituals, these practices, these traditions that are under threat because of globalization. That's a beautiful thing.
That is a beautiful
But this is so utterly broad. And when I think about some of the categories in this UNESCO intangible heritage thing, they're beautiful. Like, they preserved the sort of idea of the way they make ceviche in Peru. It's a very specific idea.
It's very good.
But this is so broad. This one feels like a cash grab. Sorry, people have to think, they have to sink thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get themselves voted. And it just feels like there's a couple of Italian people sipping espresso being like, let's have Italian eating on there. I don't know.
So a reader wrote to the New York Times for advice saying, so how can I stop my wife from badgering our friends about climate change? They say she's angry about their friend's insufficient commitment to the cause, and it is very, very off-putting. So how do you handle this situation, Andrea?
All right, so this is very simple. There's 3 ways you can handle this. First one, it's not hard. First one, just don't invite. And if that's tricky, because I understand it's his spouse, so how do you not invite her? What you do is you sit her next to someone who's either new to the family dynamic and doesn't know about her nonsense, or someone who has the patience to listen to all her yammering, because she's probably gone nose blind to all the stuff that she talks about.
Yeah.
And then there's the third, which is you're just real direct. You go, listen, Suze, you kill the vibe. When you come and you start talking about that we get together to have a good time, it's the holidays, can you please, just for this one time, put that down and let's talk about something else. Everybody here just wants to have a good time, because maybe she just doesn't know how much she brings it up and how much she annoys everybody. So do the Caribbean thing. Be direct and tell her about it.
Shouldn't the husband take her aside and just be like, honey, I love you, but like...
You're killing the vibe.
Yeah, you're killing the vibe. Or maybe like you're not gonna convince someone to change their world attitudes and stuff by like that sort of moral bullying.
Yeah.
Like, don't you have to be a little...
I mean, I don't know. I think, I don't know what I would do in this situation. I was invited once to, through a friend, to this like, what's it called, a farm? They like conserve animals. I know, go with me for a minute. It was an animal rescue farm, guys. And the woman who runs it was lovely, but she was following me around and just preaching vegan everything, right? The whole time. And talking, like, it was in explicit detail about like a whole bunch of things. And I just was like, you know what, this is making me, in my head, this is making me really uncomfortable. But then I thought, like, maybe I'm supposed to feel some discomfort. Maybe there's some stuff that I'm supposed to listen to. Maybe there's like, so while I wouldn't invite her over for dinner, like that would be a whole other thing. I do think that sometimes we are so uncomfortable with sitting in something, somebody saying something that we we know is actually true.
Absolutely.
Okay, but what if what she's saying is not exactly on point?
Okay.
Okay, so for example, I can imagine, we don't know exactly what she's saying, but let's say she's saying, you know what, stop letting the water run when you're brushing your teeth, which is what I say to my husband all the time.
Or maybe she's saying,
Or, you
stop
know,
asking ChatGPT about your kids.
Sure.
Oh, that is rude. Yeah.
Which is
That's destroying.
So maybe instead, I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer to all of us here, but yes, absolutely, all of us should be doing what we can to help the environment. But the biggest contributors to climate change are massive corporations that are 1,000 times bigger than us. So I would say be an activist, but you should use your voice where it's going to have perhaps more input. Me using a paper straw ain't changing the coral reefs. That's a great point.
But then
so
that's
the point is
gonna
take
ignite
the activism and say, you know what, you should link up with an organization that has a lot of sway to do some lobbying for the corporations that are the biggest.
That's what you would do.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, that
It
would
sounds
you do.
nice, but you know, think about that person. The person who really is just at something, I'm telling you, you're adding fuel to that fire, because then she'll be like, good, I have someone to talk about this with. Yeah, Melissa, let's talk about those corporations. And then the conversation gets even bigger and bigger. I say you just say, listen, girl, I'm exhausted. I talk all day, every day, and I just need to do a little timeout. Talk to me about something else. Let's talk Taylor Swift. Something else. Just be direct with her, because I think if you try to sway her, she wants the argument. You know, somebody who just like to keep going. I say just tell her directly, man. Cut it out.
True.
And
There you go.
in the next couple of weeks, we're all gonna deal with this. Just tell them. It's like,
Just tell them. I just run in the kitchen.
You
Say,
run in the
something's
kitchen?
burning. I'll be right back.